Hello, and welcome to The Woven Word. This is a series of programmes in which we think about Ulster's rhyming weaver poets, a group of writers who mainly flourished in the 18th and 19th centuries and whose poetry really shines a light on ordinary working class people's lives during that time in Ulster's history. You know, these were people who were working at the loom or in some instances working as farmers or different professions, but theirs was the voice of the ordinary man or woman concerned with nature, concerned with prices, concerned with what was going on in the church, concerned with landlordism. So we get a real insight into their lives by reading their poetry. In each of the episodes, we're trying to consider a poet in a place which is in some way relevant or inspiring. And today we have come to the banks of the River Lagan to think about Andrew McKenzie, also known as the Bard of Dunover, Dunover being a townland near the town of Ballywalter, down the Ards peninsula in County Down. Now, this series is being filmed in 360 degrees. And what that means is you can interact and you can look all around. If you're at home, move your mouse and you'll see you can go left and right and up and down. Or ideally, put on a VR headset and it'll be like you're standing right here with me, looking around. And we've got a lovely day and plenty to see as we stand here on the banks of the River Lagan. If you look behind you, first of all, you'll see the Lagan Weir, this footbridge as well, with people walking across it. In the distance, I can see a lovely sculpture known as the Thing with the Ring, the Spirit of Thanksgiving, Nula with the Hula, the Doll and the Ball, so many nicknames for that beautiful silver lady there holding her hoop in the air. We can see as we spiral on round to your left-hand side, we can see the boat building, somewhat overwhelming, the Albert Clock Tower just beside it. Belfast, gorgeous custom house here, designed by Sir Charles Lanyon, a Victorian architect. And then let's look to the other side, across the river. We're looking down towards Belfast Docklands, a train just passing across the bridge. The very iconic sculptures of the Harland and Wolf cranes, Goliath and Samson, standing down there in the Titanic Quarter. And then the snaking neck of the Lagan River, curling out there into Belfast Lough, onwards into the Irish Sea, and the distant shape of County Antrim. This is Belfast Harbour, Belfast Docklands, and this was where Andrew McKenzie, the Bard of Dunover, wound up later in life. But let's go back a bit. He was born in 1780 and he was the second of 6 children born to a farmer. And at a young age, Andrew was apprenticed to the loom. He learned to be a weaver, a journeyman weaver, travelling round, plying his trade. He was always interested in books and in poetry and reading. His favourite authors were the Scottish poets Hogg and Ferguson and, above all, Robert Burns. He himself had a real natural aptitude for poetry. He was great at understanding rhythm and rhyme and conveying real depth of meaning with his words. He got married to a local lady, Jane Dempster, and they went on to have a family of 6. So he was working away, supporting his family and writing his poems, which he sent into the Belfast newsletter. That was his favourite local newsletter. He used a pen name, Gaelus, Gaelus. This was a popular convention at the time to write under a different name. Now, the success of his poetry led to friends and people encouraging him to bring out a publication. And so indeed, at the age of 30, he brought out a little book of his poems and songs on rural and different subjects. And to afford this, he got people to subscribe. In other words, friends and people were encouraged to pay in advance for their copy. They would have their names recorded in a subscribers list, and then later on they would receive their copy of the book. Over 1,600 people subscribed to this book in the end, which was an absolutely phenomenal amount of people for a small book of local poetry. So the book sold very, very well indeed, and he acquired some money, but unfortunately his investments went badly wrong. He spent some money on buying a little house, which he called Mount Gaelus, but he didn't secure a lease on the land, and after some time the landlord evicted him, so he lost his home. He also bought a little boat, but this fishing boat was destroyed in a storm, so this was the loss of everything that he had had. I get a lot of this information from a memorial to Andrew McKenzie, which was published in the Belfast Penny newsletter in 1845. So now, having lost his home and lost his boat, and with his family to support, he moved up to Belfast, where some friends obtained a few positions for him. The job which he held on to the longest, and which he did right up until he stopped working eventually forever, was working here on the banks of the Lagan, monitoring or keeping a tally of the stones and the sand that were being brought in on lighters along the river and then used to pave the roads of Belfast. Not the most fulfilling of jobs for a man with such poetic talent. He was broken-hearted in 1832 when his eldest son George died out in Jamaica, but he probably sought a lot of consolation from his friends in the Masonic order. And in fact, in 1832, he brought out a little Masonic chaplet. Lovely poetry, kind of paying tribute to the fraternal friendship and support and the loyalty of the various lodges with whom he was associated. But his health continued to decline. He was very asthmatic, and at the age of 59, very sadly, he passed away. A good friend of his, another poet, a man called William Macomb, devastated at the loss of his friend, bought a plot for him in the Shankill Cemetery up the Shankill Road and had a little headstone put up to mark the spot. He composed an epitaph for it, which goes something like, "Here lies beneath this little mound of earth a child of genius and a man of worth. The winds of heaven awoke his rustic muse." Oh, something like that. I'm sorry I've forgotten the rest of it. But it ends anyway about how the world approved his song, but help denied. He lived unaided and neglected died. Really very poignant. Poor Andrew McKenzie, but at least his poetry is remembered today. At least we do have that little collection. Even his gravestone's no longer there. The graveyard was cleared some years ago and his headstone was gone. But hopefully this little programme is going to bring his memory back. You're going to hear in a moment or two my friend Matt Warwick reading the Gannaway Burn. This is a poem that Andrew McKenzie wrote whenever he was up here in Belfast. And he had this job here, probably at Donegal Quay, doing his administrative work. But while he was admiring the huge ships coming up into booming Belfast and thinking about the trade going backwards and forwards across the oceans, his real heart lay with a little stream back at home in Ballywalter, the Gannaway Burn. And he was remembering his happy times spent there, wooing his lassie, his beloved Jane, watching little fledgling birds, looking at the flowers, wading in pools full of minnows. So although physically he was here in Belfast, his mind, his memory, his love was all down in his home. It's a beautiful poem. He loved the Scottish dialect. I mentioned his love of Scottish poets, and he was most at ease, most comfortable writing in the Ulster-Scots of his own beloved Ards peninsula. So as Matt reads the poem, listen out for words and pronunciations like hey and fray, like amang for among, the beautiful word nestlings for the little fledgling birds. Ere I wist means before I knew. These beautiful Scottish words that you'll hear in his poetry. If you're watching this on YouTube, what you can do then is expand the description and jump forward to a second reading of the poem, during which you'll be able to look at beautiful 360-degree images captured here in Belfast Docklands at the mouth of the River Lagan, but also at Dunover, the home of the Bard, Andrew McKenzie.
Gannaway Burn by Andrew McKenzie. Thy banks, silver Lagan, rich beauties discover, and commerce expands her braid wings on thy tide, till ships frae thy port roam the universe over. Between thy twa headlands a navy mech ride. Low blithe I hae strayed on thy banks, noble river, yet visions of boyhood would often return. And tell me in whispers that here I mech never be blessed as when wandering on Gannaway Burn. Yes, dear native streamlet, wherever I wander, though a nature's beauties afore me were spread, thou comest o'er my soul wi' a feeling sae tender, that back to thy margin my fancy has led. Their early kent objects, by memory hallowed, awake recollection wherever I turn, for nature's rude dictates I carelessly followed among the rich vales o' the Gannaway Burn. That spot where the earliest mayflowers I gathered, on memory's vista I mark wi' delight, that bank where I watched till the nestlings were feathered, and wept when I found they had a' ta'en their flight. That pool where the quick fleeting minnows pursuing I waited, nor wist who the time glided by. That nook where I lingered, the green rashes pooing, till gloaming had spread her dark veil o'er the sky. That ford, yet as precious to fond recollection, where fairies were said to dance round the old tree, yet fearless when guided by early affection. I crossed it at midnight, my lassie, to see. Oh, sad is my soul when I think o' that maiden, and brood o'er the joys that can never return. Purer love never glowed since its birthday in Eden than that which we felt on the Gannaway Burn. The dark grove of pine, which its margin o'ershaded, fond memory shall cherish while life warms my breast. Thereafter, ere sorrow my mind had invaded, I strayed wi' blithe comrades and innocence blessed. But that grove is laid low, and my playmates sae cheery are gane to that country whence nane can return, while some wha survive wander hurtless and weary, like me, far awa frae the Gannaway Burn. Gannaway Burn by Andrew McKenzie. Thy banks, Silver Lagan, rich beauties discover, and commerce expands her breed wings on thy tide, till ships frae thy port roam the universe over. Between thy twa headlands a navy mach ride. Low blithe I hae strayed on thy banks, noble river, yet visions of boyhood would often return, and tell me in whispers that here I mach never be blessed as when wandering on Gannaway Burn. Yes, dear native streamlet, wherever I wander, though a nature's beauties afore me were spread, thou comest o'er my soul wi' a feeling sae tender, that back to thy margin my fancy has led. Their early kent objects, by memory hallowed, awake recollection wherever I turn, for nature's rude dictates I carelessly followed among the rich vales o' the Gannaway Burn. That spot where the earliest mayflowers I gathered, on memory's vista I mark wi' delight, that bank where I watched till the nestlings were feathered, and wept when I found they had a' ta'en their flight. That pool where the quick fleeting minnows pursuing I waited, nor wist who the time glided by. That nook where I lingered, the green rashes pooing, till gloamin' had spread her dark veil o'er the sky. That ford, yet as precious to fond recollection, where fairies were said to dance round the old tree, yet fearless when guided by early affection, I crossed it at midnight, my lassie, to see. Oh, sad is my soul when I think o' that maiden, and brood o'er the joys that can never return. Purer love never glowed since its birthday in Eden than that which we felt on the Gannaway Burn. The dark grove of pine, which its margin o'ershaded, fond memory shall cherish while life warms my breast. Thereafter, ere sorrow my mind had invaded, I strayed wi' blithe comrades and innocence blessed. But that grove is laid low, and my playmates sae cheery are gane to that country whence nane can return, while some wha survive wander hurtless and weary, like me, far awa frae the Gannaway Burn.